Part 26. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 251. In the next 2 hours, a group of necromancers with rich experience in dissection, experience in dissecting corpses enjoyed a beautiful anatomy lesson. This thief is quite thin, he doesn't have much fat. You are lucky. If the fat layer is thick, you have to scrape off the fat before preparing the body. But it is troublesome. Sometimes I am busy cleaning the fat all morning. Let's look under the skin. Look, around the belly button, these dark veins are the peri-umbilical veins, which form a network. We call it the peri-umbilical vein network. Feel along the peri-umbilical vein network, along the chest and abdomen on the lateral wall, you can find the veins of the thoraco-abdominal wall. This is why we have to open in the middle. If the incision is deviated, it is easy to cut the blood vessel with one knife, and the patient will start to bleed. The Silver Skull's hands were flying. Scalpels, tissue tweezers, tissue scissors, and the help of a few mage hands gently and skillfully peel off the tissue to expose the blood vessels. The necromancers crowded around and poked their heads to see. So this is no wonder I dissected a person last time and the knife started bleeding profusely. You can actually cut open all of them without hurting the blood vessels. Little Gretel is amazing. Gretel glared at them hard. Will the knife bleed? Brother, are you dissecting a corpse or a living person? It doesn't sound very reliable. Scalpels flew. This thief has no fat. After peeling off the skin, you can see the muscles immediately. Gretel was very happy with the dissection. The muscles that wrap around the abdomen are not one piece, but layer by layer. As you can see, the outermost is the external oblique muscle. The muscle fibers are diagonally downward, and the linea alba is in the middle. Cut off and remove the external oblique muscle, and the layer below it is the internal oblique muscle and rectus abdominis, and then remove it, and the layer below it is the internal oblique muscle. Incise the internal oblique muscle along the linea alba. Very good. Next is the abdominal wall membrane. After incision, you can see the abdominal cavity. The necromancers began to become polarized. Some were dangling around, very boring, wishing they could insert a knife into the abdominal cavity. Some were looking at it with gusto, wishing Gretel would dissect more slowly and more carefully. Is that so? Although it is cumbersome, it looks very smooth. This is how you should cut open your stomach. Will it not damage the material if you do it in the future? No wonder my weird stitching belly keeps leaking. Go back and try to cut it open slowly, one by one, to see if it feels better. Greet, rightward arrow. Rightward arrow. Don't think I didn't hear it? Of course, some necromancers focused their attention elsewhere. This lamp is very good, have you noticed it? Yes, I also noticed that the silver skeleton subordinate has no shadow at all. It's so easy to use. It annoys me to death if I have to let my apprentice light it. Little Greet. Where did you buy this lamp? In the alchemy workshop, just ask about the shadowless lamp. They should have many models. No, don't interrupt. Do you remember everything I just said? Well. Do you understand? Why don't you write it down quickly? Archmage Edgar stared. As a high-level mage, he has strong mental strength. He can memorize these things after reading them once, without needing to use a pen to memorize them. The students were different. When the teacher yelled at them, they began to whimper in a hurry. Teacher, we didn't bring any pen or paper. Oh, 2 rooms to the left from here, there are pens and papers on the bookshelf. Gretel looked up in his busy schedule. Those who wanted to take notes ran away. Those who were too lazy to take notes were still twisting and turning, and the lingering voice screamed. Teacher, it's not necessary. It's necessary. Remember quickly. You have to memorize the words and draw the pictures. No. Teacher, I'm not good at drawing. Greet smiled slightly. As a doctor, no, as a necromancer, how can you not be good at drawing? Only by drawing the skeletal muscles, internal organs, and blood vessels can we remember them better, and only by drawing them can we explain them to patients better. Well, it seems that the necromancer does not need to face the patient. The enjoyable dissection lasted 2 hours. Finally, the silver skeleton hurriedly put down the tissue scissors and scattered them into a pile. On the opposite side of the operating table, Greet also closed his eyes and swayed. Pap, pap, the mage's hand dispersed, and the 2 hooks fell down at the same time. Several larger and thicker mage hands flew up at the same time, helping Gretel take 2 steps back and sit down on a floating saucer. Master Edgar walked forward quickly. Are you exhausted mentally? Probably. The voice coming out from under the protective clothing was muffled and weak. Gretel sat on the floating saucer with his head lowered. He felt dizzy, his heart was beating rapidly, and he was sweating in his vest. Look at these symptoms. In addition to mental exhaustion, I'm afraid there's also a bit of hypoglycemia. It's impossible to work anymore after you've consumed it to this extent. With the help of the mage, Gretel floated all the way out of the red zone, taking a chemical shower, going to the buffer zone, taking off protective clothing and bathing and changing clothes. Returning to the safe area, he sat and drank a large glass of sugar water, still reluctantly looking into the inner room. Wow, I still want to dissect it. I haven't practiced for a long time. Since I left the battlefield, I haven't operated on anyone for a year. My hands are raw. I'm a surgeon. And the corpse must be dissected quickly. If it is kept frozen without a great magician, it will become rotten to the point of being unusable in a few days if left at room temperature. Can I hold on mentally? Do you want to use spiritual potions? Seems a bit wasteful. Greet's regret was almost written on his face. Archmage Edgar looked at his expression with interest and suddenly asked. Can we stay here? Let's continue watching your autopsy tomorrow. Ah, of course. Gretel came to his senses and nodded quickly. Shouldn't they just continue to watch the anatomy? As long as they are willing to abide by the laboratory rules and wear protective clothing, it will be no problem to continue watching for a few days. Just. Can the body be frozen for me? A group of necromancers laughed. You are a necromancer, you have just started, and before you start summoning your own undead creatures, you have to help the teacher transport and store corpses. Even if Archmage Edgar doesn't take action, necromancers like them, who are at an average level of 7 or 8, can preserve the body properly with just a few spells. Don't worry, it has been preserved, Archmage Edgar replied pleasantly. Greet smiled at him gratefully and thought for a while. That silver skull, can you lend it to me for a few more days? Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to cut it. I'll give it to you. This is not allowed. Greet almost jumped with fright. In other words, if he hadn't been exhausted and still weak, he would have really jumped up. Are you kidding? Although he didn't know how much the silver skeleton was worth, a magic item that could cut into a level 7 corpse and be manipulated as he wished. You definitely can't get 1 or 2,000 contribution points. It's probably not enough to empty out his wallet. How can you give away such an expensive thing? He must not accept a gift of such high value casually. Gretel's face changed color and his hands shook wildly. Archmage Edgar glanced at his disciples, his eyes full of helplessness. Look, you know it will scare him. It still took Greet 2 hours to get a taste of the sweetness before we discussed it. If he had said it would be a gift from the beginning, I'm afraid he would rather not dissect it than touch the skeleton. Well, actually, why bother? Just like there is no shortage of all kinds of magic equipment in the transformation system, and anyone can easily come up with 10 or 8 kinds of them, the magician of Black Crow Swamp is most indispensable for all kinds of skeletons. Once you kill an enemy, save his body and prepare to summon the undead. Over time, every necromancer has accumulated a lot of. Every disciple under Master Edgar was given a golden skeleton by his teacher when he went on a trip. Just like the one in Lin's hand, it can work, fight, be cute, and considerate. In terms of level, it is much higher than Gretel's silver skeleton. And skeletons are not like magic equipment. Except for the internal digestion of the necromantic system, others don't want to see them, ordinary people don't want to see them, and other magicians don't want to see them either. It's rare to find someone who likes it. Just because of this, it won't hurt to give one away. Gretel didn't want it, or didn't dare to ask for it, so Archmage Edgar insisted on giving it away. Fortunately, he didn't have any plans for this, so when he said it now, he spoke it smoothly, naturally, and with full sincerity. "Oh, I didn't give it to you for nothing. When you were doing the dissection just now, you generously let us see it, explained it while doing it, and didn't take our money, right? You treat us as friends, so we can't be stingy. That's different. The commentary fee is, at most, enough to pay for the rent of the silver skull." The little guy is quite stubborn. Archmage Edgar smiled and continued. "Otherwise, let's make a deal. You also know that every necromancer must learn to dissect and organize corpses. Many new kids cannot pass this level. I think you are quite skilled. Help us train some entry-level mage apprentices, especially in anatomy skills. It doesn't take much, just the 20 people we just recruited this year. This silver skeleton should be considered as training fee." This. Gretel hesitated. Interpretation of localities and relationships is a part of medicine. It doesn't matter if you miss a little bit when you are interested. If you want to teach it systematically, it can only be taught to people who have stepped into the door of medicine and have taken the oath of medical students. He pondered. Archmage Edgar observed his words and added another sentence. "In this way, all the corpses used for teaching will be provided by Black Crow Swamp. Then they must abide by my oath. They must not use what I teach to harm living people, and they must not teach what I teach to people who have not made the same oath. They must not." Gretel blah blah said a string. Archmage Edgar pondered for a long time and asked. "Only to the part you teach?" "Certainly. No problem." The two sides high-fived each other and sealed the deal. So 3 days later, Archmage Carlyle got the news and came to visit in person. He saw little Gretel using the skeletons of Black Crow Swamp, surrounded by the wizards of Black Crow Swamp, teaching the students of Black Crow Swamp. He turned around silently, went out, and rushed to the Tower of Babel. The teacher is bad, little Gretel is going to be kidnapped by them. Double monthly passes are available from July 29th, which is tomorrow, to August 4th. During the double monthly pass period, crowdfunding rewards will be available from 2000 hours to 2400 hours every night. Please save your tickets and rewards for that time period. Please subscribe, ask for recommendation votes, and ask for book reviews. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 252. Little Greet. Abducted. The Lord of Thunder paused with his fingertips. In the porcelain cup in front of him, there was a stream of white foaming milk rising from the side and deftly poured into the coffee cup. Being interrupted like this, the perfect swan wings pattern in the cup was tilted, and a tail immediately appeared on the outer edge of the swan's wings. On the left-hand side of the legendary mage, a silver-white quill was busy writing on its own. As the drawing of the pattern failed, the quill stopped moving, and with a snap, it lay down on the paper like a normal pen. "Please tell me the matter in detail." The legendary mage took a sip of coffee and said slowly. Archmage Carlyle did not dare to neglect and immediately reported everything to the teacher. The Lord of Thunder listened quietly and sneered. "It's useless. Old, teacher." He wants to enter the Black Crow Swamp, and he has already done so. He has delayed entering for a year, which means that the school of necromancy is not interesting enough to attract him. As for playing with corpses occasionally, it is not considered a quirk for healers to play with corpses, no need, leave him alone. Archmage Carlyle bowed his head. The Lord of Thunder ignored him and poured the failed latte art coffee into the sink. He waved his fingertips, and everything on the table started to move on its own. The coffee beans began to grind on their own, and the milk rose up and fell into the foaming cup. Then it started to be evaporated. In the coffee cup, the white swan finally spreads its wings. The Lord of Thunder showed a satisfied look, took a small sip slowly, and nodded. Yeah, but we can't take it too seriously and make it seem like we don't care about him at all. In this way, I think the little guy is really going to take the path of a healer. The two advancements are breakthroughs in treatment. When he has had enough fun, you urge him to finish the mithril quest quickly, and then find another healing one for him to toss around. Firstly, it will distract him, and secondly, if you see what else he lacks, just stuff it into the reward of the mithril mission. So, when Gretel came back from the joy of dissecting corpses and planned to return to the normal rhythm, he received the urging with a confused look on his face. Is the mithril smelting project still completed? Ah, it's still early, right? Gretel looked at the lead cloud outside the window. As soon as winter comes, the city of Nevis is shrouded in winter rain. It rains 8 out of 10 days. It's a rare day when it doesn't rain. It was also gloomy that day, and I had a look on my face that said, I'll show you the rain right away. For Gretel, who is a homebody, bad weather means she doesn't want to go out. It's getting late. Aurora Walden, who was ordered to deliver the news, looked depressed. His boss is really generous when he is generous, but he is also really lazy when he is lazy. Obviously the results have been achieved, but you just delayed it for a month and refused to finish it? What's the purpose? You will get paid after completing the question. Boss, my senior brother has finished writing the part about electric current smelting. I have also finished writing the part about using fire gas to smelt semi-finished products. I even went to the mine a few days ago. The current monthly output is for you, boss, to take over. 10 times as much as before the subject. The boss just let go from the beginning. Poor him, a magician of the plasticity department, he just squatted in the mine for half a month, collecting materials, making records, and being drunk by dwarves. How easy was it for him? With such resentment, Aurora brought a thick stack of papers and placed them in front of Gretel with a thud. Boss, if you read it over and see that there is nothing you want to change, can we hand it over to apply for finalization? Greet flipped through the 10 lines at a glance, table of contents, summary, conclusion. Then, casually put the paper together. There's just one last part to go. Still bad? That's definitely not enough. Well, tomorrow you accompany me to the forging area, and I'll see if the dwarves have come to their senses. The dwarves had indeed come to their senses. Greet came to the door of the forging area with a bunch of magic defenses, not because of danger, but mainly to protect him from the rain. He asked a question and saw Master Talbot's eyes light up. Next to him, the braided dwarf guarding the entrance to the mithril district wanted to rush forward and hug Gretel's thigh. Yes. Now the production can no longer increase. We are severely short of ore, and all the spare hands are used to mine, but there is still not enough. Lack of ore, right? Mining efficiency is not high enough, right? Gretel smiled confidently. Returning to the city of Nevis, Greet immediately rolled up a bunch of things and ran to the top of the mountain. The thing he is going to make next is quite dangerous, mainly because it is easy to explode. He is reluctant to blow up his own laboratory, so of course, he will use it to harm others. Anyway, there are so many laboratories in the Evocation Mage Tower that he can use whenever he wants. It is said that renting a laboratory also costs money, but Aurora has taken care of it for him. So far, Gretel has not earned any contribution points. He happily occupied a laboratory, hung an occupied sign, and closed the door and locked it. The news soon spread to the Tower of Babel. Master Dickel shrugged his shoulders and spread his hands. Look, isn't this coming? Greet, who threw himself into a trap, didn't know that someone was talking about him in the Tower of Babel. He put enough magic defense on his body, filled half of the water in a large tank, and called to Aurora. Oro, freeze ray. Aurora Walton, so I'm just an ice maker. Complaints are complaints, but you still have to listen to what your boss says. Aurora Warden had a stiff face and threw freezing rays into the sink until it was filled with tiny ice cubes. Then, he watched Gretel insert a test tube into the sink, and drop sulfuric acid, nitric acid, and glycerin into the test tube. Nothing was done. Oh, maybe the sulfuric acid and nitric acid are not strong enough? Try again after purification. Again. Again. Boom. Well, the reaction speed is too fast, slow down a little this time. Boom. 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 Aurora Warden went from tension to relaxation, from relaxation to numbness. Later, apart from lying next to him and regularly replenishing Greet with defensive spells, he could only numbly record the experimental process. 1 milliliter of concentrated sulfuric acid, 1 milliliter of concentrated nitric acid, mix thoroughly, cool to 0 degrees in the ice-water mixture, slowly add dehydrated glycerin. It exploded. Hey, it didn't explode this time. Aurora stretched out her head curiously, looked at the clear light yellow liquid in the test tube, and flicked an identification technique. The feedback came instantly. This time, the test tube did not explode, Aurora did. Boss, why are you messing with kerosene? This thing has to be sold. Do you have to work on it yourself for a long time? Huh? Someone made it? That's right. This thing is super useless. It's not easy to light, so just leave it alone and I don't know when it will explode again for you. The alchemy workshop has made a lot of them and no one wants them. But after all, it has been made. If you want it, boss, just order it. Gretel. Just, embarrassing. I want to touch all these alchemy products when I have time. Who knows what random names they gave them after they made them. However, it is more reliable to make this thing by yourself. After all, it can be taken orally as medicine. If the things you buy have too many impurities, when you take them under the tongue, take some sulfuric acid or nitric acid in your mouth. Thinking about the consequences makes me shudder. Gretel happily prepared a small test tube, and began to wash cotton, boil cotton, and soak cotton with nitric acid. After a round of boom, boom, and boom, Greet looked at the results in a small box in front of him and narrowed his eyes with satisfaction. Oro. Hey, boss. Is there a place to test spells here? Well, preferably, it's free. Yes, yes. Aurora jumped. He froze in the middle of the dance. No money. Boss, there is no protection in places where there is no money. It's not like we don't have money now, why don't we save these few bucks? What a joke. The boss's Dragon Breath hand uses a first-level spell to produce a fourth-level power. This time he wanted to try out a new idea, just in case he got another high-level one and accidentally blew it up. The teacher can skin him alive. Aurora tried her best to persuade her, and finally dragged her boss to the 5th floor of the Plastic Energy Tower. This level is specially reinforced with spells and is designed for mid-level magicians, that is, magicians of levels 5 to 9, to experiment and practice magic. The first floor is divided into 10 large and small rooms and a hall, with different prices and facilities to accommodate magicians with different needs. The hall is divided into 10 target lanes, and after the defensive walls are raised, they can avoid interfering with each other. The asking price is not high, only 10 contribution points per hour. The disadvantage is that if you do something, others will inevitably see it. Because Greet asked to save money and had no requirements for confidentiality, Aurora took him to the hall. At this time, there were already people in Kyujo. Aurora dragged Greet and ran over, just in time to reach the last target lane. Boss, here. Hurry up. Hey, wait. Someone yelled from behind. Aurora has pressed the badge to confirm the right to use the target lane. The man hurriedly hurried slowly, but was still a step too late. He couldn't help but stamp his feet. Hey, why did you grab it so quickly? You couldn't do it? He turned around and squeezed in before the barrier closed. Probably because he was in a hurry, beads of sweat were already hanging on his forehead, and they were shining one by one on his bald head. He was not in a hurry to wipe it, but lamented to Aurora. I thought it was for you, but you didn't use it, so you gave it to him? What a waste. A little second-level mage, shall I change careers with you? The teacher will take the test tomorrow, and my new magic hasn't been used yet. Practice well. In this way, I will give you 20 contribution points and you will take him to the low-level area below. Gretel. Aren't I just too busy recently and haven't refreshed my badge? I am already a third-level mage. Level 3. He turned away and ignored that person, dragging Aurora to the end of the target lane. Dozens of stones of various hardnesses were piled on the target lane, large and small, to serve as targets for the magicians. Greet picked out a medium-sized piece, asked Aurora to use magic to drill a hole, stuffed cotton soaked in nitric acid into it, and stuffed a long rope into it. Then, exit the target lane and throw a spark spell. Boom. There was a muffled sound. The stone fell apart. Very good. Trial production successful. Gretel waved his fist happily. Next to him, the bald mage continued to pause. Brother, aren't you? It's just such a little power, much smaller than the blazing ball. It's worth coming to the intermediate area. Hey, please give it to me. Really, I'll give you 40 contribution points. 40. It's already 4 times. This guy is so annoying. Greet and Aurora looked at each other. Aurora winked. Or give it to him. Are you okay? No. Don't let it go. It will take me up to an hour. Hey, do you want to make a bigger noise? Gretel thought for a moment. A flash of inspiration arose, and he carefully put on the crocodile leather gloves and held the black cotton through the gloves. Concentrate, activate the spell model, use cotton soaked in nitric acid as the casting material, and release magic. Blazing Ball. The second level magic of the evocation system. I just learned it after my mage level reached level 3. A rolling fireball as high as his eyebrows came out of his hand and rolled forward quickly. Greet was overjoyed and was about to command it to rise and continue moving forward. Boom. The fireball shrinks, expands, and explodes. Fierce waves of air swept across all directions. Greet fell down reflexively. Aurora looked horrified and set up 2 barriers in succession without blocking them. The bald mage then threw out a force field wall, which managed to block the air wave and prevent the high-temperature gas from spraying onto his face. In a hurry, the glistening beads of sweat on his forehead were all thrown away by him. It's a secret. What kind of magic are you doing? The third-level fireball technique is not as strong as this. 3,000 words. Another update completed. Only the last one left. Double monthly passes are available from July 29th, which is tomorrow, to August 4th. During the double monthly pass period, crowdfunding rewards will be available from 2000 hours to 2400 hours every night. Please save your tickets and rewards for that time period. Please subscribe, ask for recommendation votes, and ask for book reviews. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 253. Chapter 253, Mithril Project Rewards Can't Afford the Rewards. The bald magician exclaimed, then turned to face the wall of the hall, no longer looking at Gretel. The magician's original magic is everyone's most precious secret. It's okay to just accidentally see it. Now that you have discovered that it is someone else's original work, it is best to be more conscious. Gestures, spells, materials. Don't look, don't see anything, don't listen. The bald magician covered his ears, turned his back to Gretel, and squatted on the spot with his head in his hands. No matter how I covered my ears, I couldn't stop the sound from spreading. I heard mumbling behind me, one after another. Oh, sorry, I just relaxed a little, I'll try again. Boom. It was quite successful, but it's a bit difficult to control, I'll try again. Boom. Well, as expected, it's still easy to control and powerful, but it's too troublesome to bring up, I'll try again. Boom. The power has increased, but it's still easy to explode. What are you doing squatting here? The bald magician turned around and saw Aurora squatting next to him, looking at him with eyes as bright as her blonde hair. That friendly and curious look reminded the bald magician of the hound he raised, which also had such a golden retriever. He smiled awkwardly, released a hand covering his ears, and pointed behind his back. However, after all, I don't have the habit of squatting, so with such a finger, my whole body shook. Aurora simply pulled him up. What are you squatting for? You didn't mean to stare. It's okay to accidentally see something. The boss's magic can't be learned at a glance. Besides, according to his temperament, the paper and the magic for exchange are probably coming out soon. How do you know? The bald magician looked surprised. Brother, although I don't know why you, a 5th level magician, call that boss, but he is your boss after all. Is it really okay for you to act like a boss? Because I'm the one responsible for writing the paper. Aurora was dejected, and her ears almost drooped. What, the boss comes up with ideas and you are responsible for writing the paper? So happy? The bald magician was surprised and envious at the same time. It was a bit funny to see Aurora like this, and there was a thin layer of red on his bald head. Just as he was about to continue asking, a call came from behind. Aurora. Why? Aurora jumped over happily. The bald magician shook his head, smiled to himself, and stood up on his knees. I heard rustling behind me. Olo, try this, just use this as the casting material. Didn't you use sulfur as the casting material for the fireball spell? Try this instead. Be careful, it's very easy to explode, and it's a bit difficult to control. Okay boss. Boss, please step back and hide in the corner over there. I'll give you another shield. Boom. Wow, boss, you really came up with something amazing. However, Aurora is only a 5th level magician. He can only cast 4 or 5 3rd level fireballs a day. He increased the amount of charge, and used oxygen and nitrocellulose as casting materials. After trying several different methods, he exhausted all his mental energy and had to raise his hands to surrender. Boss, I can't do it anymore, let's try again tomorrow. Tomorrow, Gretel looked at the time and was still a little unsatisfied, it's less than half an hour. So, let's try to blow up rocks again. He lowered the frontal defensive force field, raised his feet and walked inside. Aurora rushed forward and dragged him. Boss, you go back to bed first. You don't have to do these things. We make things, test them, etc., and we can send out tasks. Yes, send out tasks. He was afraid, because his mental energy had been exhausted. If the boss's defense skills were broken, he would have no time to make up for it, he would cause trouble every minute. Send a mission. Gretel hesitated. Aurora nodded desperately. Many people do this. We write the basic framework of the thesis and leave the rest of the work to others. It's very convenient. Many magicians are willing to take it. Give some compensation, or give 2 or 3 works, there are many people come to rob, such as. Like me, the bald magician rushed to interject. I don't want any reward, just give me 3 works. I am Barrack Crisp, a disciple of Master Manning. I can sign a magic contract and never reveal it. Of course, it is best if you can teach me that new magic, I don't ask for free. Can I redeem it at half price? Gretel and Aurora smiled at each other. This test lasted until late at night. Then, Greet took the elevator upstairs by the familiar route, got into Archmage Carlyle's guest room, and fell asleep. And the miserable Aurora spread out manuscript paper on the desk outside the guest room, staying up late to write the paper. The next morning, papers on the entire mithril smelting solution, especially papers on new explosives and improved fire magic, were placed on the desk of Archmage Carlyle. In less than half an hour, Archmage Carlyle personally held the paper and delivered it to the legendary mage. The little guy has quite an idea. The Lord of Thunder sipped his coffee slowly, turned a few pages, and praised it. After reading it from beginning to end, he raised his head and looked at his disciple. Go and make arrangements. Try all the things that can be burned and exploded to see what the results will be if you make them into casting materials. Then, ask the little guy if he is willing to authorize this newly made explosive. At this point, the master and the disciple laughed at the same time. So far, Gretel has refused to authorize anything he has brought out, and sometimes he even wants to get rid of it as soon as possible. A character like his is a bit rare among magicians, so he has to take care of him as a teacher. Well, you should arrange for people to discuss it with the review committee and the alchemy workshop. Don't treat the little guy badly, including the remuneration for completing the questions and the authorization ratio. As expected, Archmage Carlyle went straight to the review meeting. The reward for the mithril production increase project is always on the Parliament's task list, as long as it makes some appreciable results. It is 100 research points and 200 contribution points. However, this number obviously does not satisfy the Archmage. It's already a tenfold increase now. Not counting the new mining methods and the increase in ore production. How many times did those who received bounties increase in the past? Is it double? 50%? 30%? Then how much do you think we should give him? The great mage of the change department couldn't help but rub his forehead. The standard for receiving rewards before was to increase production by 20%, and give 100 points and 200 contribution points. This time, if the production is increased by 10 times, we will give 5,000 points and 10,000 contribution points. This doesn't make sense. One aspect is that the amount is too high, but more importantly, these rewards are paid for by the demand side. Recently, Gretel has made too much money in the alchemy workshop. The microscopes are the same, the pencils are the same, and even the shadowless lamps. Black Crow Swamp recently ordered 10 of them. If this continues, it feels like half of the alchemy workshop is working for Gretel. Oh, for Gretel's new magic tower, the alchemy workshop is still adjusting materials and repeatedly discussing the drawings with the protection department. Seeing another big expenditure, if this continues, the accounts will become unbalanced. His plan is indeed very useful, but don't tell me you don't know. The cost is also much higher. To smelt the finished product, it occupies a laboratory all year round and is operated by 2 archmages. To refine the semi-finished product requires the use of fire gas, and it occupies 2 laboratories all year round. The gas in the big iron bottle has exploded twice in the past few days. Fortunately, the force field wall blocked it. What's even more troublesome is that the production of these things is all about plastic energy. Except for the Babel Tower and the Thunder Tower, there are no other places in the entire Igor Peak that contain thunder cells restricted by force fields. Instead of using thunder batteries, let the great magician use electric magic to attack. Alchemy Workshop tried it themselves, and the results were impressive. When did their transmutation department become stuck in the production of alchemy products with the plasticity department? After all, mithril production has increased tenfold, yes, but the cost of mithril production has more than doubled than in the past. Ahem, you can't say that, old Sam interrupted gently. First of all, the Magic Council's demand for mithril is too great. Even if the cost is doubled, the general account will still make a profit. Secondly, you haven't noticed that with these new methods, we can produce mithril ourselves without relying on dwarves. Is that so? This alone is worthy of our giving him a heavy reward. After saying this, everyone in the review meeting nodded. Only the great magician of the transformation department was still angrily retorting. The reward can't be too much. 5,000 research points. How many levels do you want to push his research level to? 5 levels? 6 levels? 7 levels? Don't you think it's too much? There are also 10,000 contribution points. He can do so many tricks without money, but with 10,000 contribution points, he can go to heaven. Even Archmage Carlyle didn't dare to answer these words. Gretel is now a 4th-level arcanist and a 3rd-level magician. He is already the subject of special protection by the Magic Council. He must try his best to hide him, and the Tower of Babel will keep an eye on him at all times. If the research level is pushed higher. Shudder. Let's talk about money. Gretel was able to cause a small plague with nothing before. With 10,000 contribution points, he can customize a mage tower and blow it up. But let's talk to him. Is there any expensive magic equipment that he urgently needs? Customize a batch for him, and the price will be within the 10,000 contribution points. What else does he lack? A staff? An amplification method? Weapon? Demon pet? By the way, the little guy is in Nevis, so he doesn't have a fixed residence yet, right? It's not shameful to live in the laboratory all the time. Let's see if there is any convenience in the council's property. Let's allocate a house to him and count it in the reward. So Greet was carried to Archmage Carlyle's office with a confused look on his face. Magic equipment? I need it, Gretel came up with a lot of them without thinking. Precision balance. Centrifuge. Shaker. 2 dozen pipettes first. Acidometer. Chromatograph. UV spectrophotometer. Oh, by the way, give me a set of ammeters and voltmeters. Stop, 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 what do you want? Double monthly pass starts. Hand over your monthly tickets to me. Thanks to Atfanyan Rieo for the 1,500 starting coins. If it is more convenient on iOS, the reward must be sent through the browser. The reward on Apple mobile phone will be received 3 months later and half of it will be divided by Apple T. Double monthly pass starts. Hand over your monthly tickets to me. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, please review books. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 254. I'm so stupid, really. Gretel raised his dull eyes and said to his followers. I only know that magic weapons and armor are expensive, but I don't know that precision instruments are more expensive than magic equipment. 10,000 contribution points. Just created it? Precision balance. Have. An ordinary balance with an accuracy of 1 gram costs 5 gold coins. A precision balance with an accuracy of 0.1 gram and a knob to adjust the reading. Each one costs 100 gold coins. Accurate to 1/100th of a gram, the crystal displays the reading, with 1500 contribution points per frame. Accuracy of 1/1000th of a gram, sorry, no. Centrifuge. There was no ready-made one, so after Gretel expressed his request, the great mage of the transformation system quickly expressed that he could make one. 6000 RPM? No problem. Do you need to freeze during centrifugation? No problem. 4 magic arrays are nested, used for clamping, rotation, temperature change and timing respectively. They are powered by magic crystals and can be controlled remotely. All of these are no problem -3000 contribution points per unit. An oscillator with 500 contribution points, a water bath with a capacity of 2 liters, adjustable temperature, and a thermometer with a value of 1000 contribution points. Pipettes are relatively expensive, mainly because each pipette must be equipped with a special magic circle, and the accuracy requirements for the magic circle are particularly high. The Archmage calculated for a long time and considered that to meet Gretel's requirements, which was to absorb 1/20th ml of liquid each time, only one master in the Alchemy Guild could do it with his micro-carving skills. Taking into account the master's level, crafting costs, and schedule, as well as the requirement to jump in line, the Alchemy Guild offered Greet a high price of 2000 contribution points per bottle. Gretel silently retracted his bold words of "get 2 dozen," endured the heartache and calculated for a long time, and only ordered one, a bonus. There was no way, some medicines required high precision and were not made by him, so he didn't feel comfortable using them. As for the acidometer, chromatograph, UV spectrophotometer, what the hell are these? After communicating for a long time, Greet wiped away tears and placed an order for a piece of triangular glass with high transparency and high refractive index, planning to assemble a simple photometer by himself. As for the acidometer and chromatograph, I have to forgive him for not having used them very much. He has never dismantled them, so he has no idea how to take them out. By the way, Greet only knows the uses of the above instruments, but does not know their structure. It's completely different from selling microscopes and shadowless lamps, where you can get customized products for free and at the same time collect Alchemy Guild wool. Coupled with a bunch of miscellaneous equipment, the 10,000 contribution points I just received were all spent in the blink of an eye. Oh, bankrupt. Greet walked out of the conference room with a slumped head. Aurora tried to comfort him, "It's already very good. If it weren't for this opportunity, if the low-level mage wanted to find a master to customize something, the price would at least double. Whether he would accept it or not depends on their mood." I understand the truth. Gretel didn't feel comforted at all. But it's really expensive, 10,000 contribution points. All spent. He also used a lot of his own savings. Aurora looked at him and shook her head helplessly. Speaking of which, he himself is also a little rich man. After coming to Nevis from his hometown, he has never spent less than 1,000 gold coins in a year, otherwise, he would not be able to save 1,500 contribution points. However, he had never thought about spending 10,000 points a day. By the way, is this why Gretel is the boss? Okay, let's go see your house. Aurora pulled him hard. Thunderpoint is actually willing to reward you with a house. Hey, do you know how difficult it is to buy a house in Nevis? My father spent half a year in the city and asked countless people to buy one. This is because the original owner is older. I have to go back to my hometown, so I finally got some free space, and it cost me almost 5,000 gold coins. House. Gretel finally felt a little happier. The house in the Magic Council headquarters is about the same as the house in the capital district, time travel a year and a half, and buy real estate in the capital district. And it's a garden villa? They descended Mount Igor together and walked out of the station. The Aurora family's carriage was already waiting outside. It took the two magicians and the Thunderhorn staff and headed straight to the garden area. Aurora's villa is on the edge of the villa area. The carriage passed by without stopping, following the instructions of the clerk and going straight to the central area. 1 row of houses, 2 rows of houses. Wow! Thunderhorn is so rich. Greet let out a soft sigh of admiration. The carriage stopped, and standing in front of them was a beautiful 3-story building, 1 floor higher and larger than Aurora's house. The exterior wall is completely white, giving people a dazzling feeling even in the night. A tall wrought iron fence surrounds the villa and creates a spacious garden for the house. Although it was late winter, the plants in the garden were still standing tall and did not look like they were about to wither and die. If the house in Aurora is worth 5,000 gold coins, the one in front of you is worth at least 10,000. Just give it to him. The clerk who accompanied them was embarrassed for a moment. He looked at Greet's expression and whispered. It didn't cost any money, wasn't there a spy incident some time ago? The Magic Council followed suit and pulled out a lot of strings. This house was one of the strongholds. It was confiscated by us and became the property of the council. Don't worry, there's nothing dead here. Extraordinary. I don't mind that, Gretel shrugged. Not to mention that no one has died, even if they have, I believe that the necromancy school has definitely cleaned up and will never stay here to cause trouble for him. At worst, I'll ask a few necromancers to come over and have a look around. The clerk took them inside. Pushing open the iron gate surrounded by roses and thorns, a flat bluestone walkway leads directly to the main entrance of the villa. It feels like you can run a horse-drawn carriage without any bumps. The front door opens, and a bright light shines in front of it. From the high ceiling of the living room, a crystal lamp with a diameter twice that of a shadowless lamp hangs straight down. Eternal flame, Greet murmured to himself. There is no one to maintain this house, and the crystal lamp can still light up like this. It is obviously blessed with an eternal flame. Before, he wanted to make a shadowless lamp, which was just a matter of piecing it together and using his brain. The original owner of this room actually placed the eternal flame in the living room for decoration. The living room is so luxurious, and other places are certainly not that bad. Gretel followed the staff around and went up to the second floor. He saw that the corridor was covered with wool carpets, which were so soft that they would sink into the instep when he stepped into them. The 4-poster bed with tassels is big enough for 3 people to sleep together. The silk bedspread on the bed is actually embroidered. Wow, this bed is so comfortable to lie on, Aurora praised in a low voice. Continuing up the stairs, the study seats are actually covered with ice bear skin cushions. Aurora endured it again and again, so she didn't sit on it and wander around for a while, but just stretched out her hand and touched it again and again. 2 master bedrooms with bathrooms, a guest bedroom, and a children's room. A sunroom, a den, and a rec room. There was also a cellar full of wine barrels. Even though Greet didn't know how to drink, looking at Aurora's excitement, he knew it would never be cheap. If the house itself is worth 10,000 gold coins, the furnishings and collections in the house could be worth twice as much. Aurora became more and more excited as she watched. Greet looked around from top to bottom, but became more and more silent. Finally, he asked seriously from the depths of his soul. So, how many people do I have to hire to maintain this house? The clerk pretended not to hear. His magic level is not high. He is still level 2 in his 40s or 50s. Seeing that he will never be able to rise to the level in his lifetime, he can only pay more attention to his dealings with others. Greet looked at Nian Sheng. The research level was so much higher than the magic level, and he was given a direct order from above to build a house. There must be a deep meaning in it. Even if Greet is worried about the maintenance of the house, he will always make more mistakes and say less, so it is better not to say anything. Sure enough, if he didn't say anything, Aurora quickly picked up. In my house, a footman and coachman, a cook, and a maid to clean the rooms are almost enough. Your house is bigger than mine, and the garden is bigger than mine. Even if all the unused rooms are sealed up, you will have to add at least one more male servant, one more maid, and hire someone to take care of the garden. By the way, if there are so many people, there must be a butler. How much will it cost? Besides, I'm not familiar with the place, where can I hire someone? Maybe they just want you to spend money. The clerk lowered his head slightly and listened to the blonde magician comforting the owner of the house. It's okay. It's easy to hire people. I'll ask Uncle Peter to ask around later. He's familiar with this place and he will definitely be able to hire someone. The White Tower provides services, the clerk finally interjected. The magician management area of the White Tower provides various services to the mages, including hiring servants. If food and accommodation are included, an ordinary valet will be paid 5 silver coins per month. If he has a skill, such as driving a carriage or gardening, he will be paid about 10 silver coins. A literate valet will be paid 20 silver coins per month. Ordinary maids, depending on age and appearance, earn 5 to 15 silver coins per month, cooks usually earn 10 silver coins, and housekeepers are more expensive, around 25 to 30 silver coins. However, these are all servants certified by the association, so you can rest assured about their safety. There was a jingling sound, and the sound of coins rolling out of his pocket rang in Gretel's ears. That is to say, I don't want a valet. The cheapest maid and housekeeper will cost you 45 silver coins per month, that is, 4.5 gold coins. In addition to providing them with food, accommodation, firewood, maintenance, and organization of this place, I don't want a valet. A house costs at least 10 gold coins a month, he murmured. 1 gold coin can let the little monster work for an hour, and 10 gold coins can make hundreds of needles. Can I sell the house? Ahem, it's best not. Aurora quickly stopped him. My teacher can't give you a house like this. It's probably an order from a higher level. The higher-ups won't want you to sell it right away, besides, it's just money, just make more money. Let's go back. Ask the teacher if there are any other tasks you can take on. I still need to take on a mission. Greet was reluctant. He hasn't produced penicillin yet. The public health advisory is not finished yet. Mage Tower, no, P4 Laboratory, the drawings have not been confirmed yet. It's just a research mission. If someone comes to kill me, I don't know if I can refund it then. However, Aurora insisted on dragging him away. He was dragged all the way to the Archmage Carlyle. As expected, the Archmage had already prepared and pushed over a stack of information. After the battle with the Lord of Glory Church, our fleet has expanded its scope of activities at sea. However, the health of the crew is always a problem, which also prevents the ship from going to sea for too long. The fleet under the Parliament and the Merchants' Federation have made requests to the Parliament. I see that you are very interested in healing. Do you want to accept this task and improve the health of the crew? It's the end of the month. Double monthly pass. Everyone hand over your monthly tickets. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please do it at this time. If you collect 1500 starting coins during this period, you will get 2 more monthly tickets. Another 3000 words. The last 10,000 reward plus more has been paid off. Liberated whirl around and scatter flowers. Thanks to @Red Sky Without Clouds for the 100 starting coins reward. The extra update is finally finished. It took 19 days, 6,000 words a day, and I am exhausted. So far this month, I have added 22 days of extra update. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, please review books. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 255. Improve crew health. Greet almost blurted out, "Lemon, bean sprouts, okay, I'm going to make penicillin." However, he thought for a moment and accepted the task. Without investigation, there is no right to speak. Any solution must be tried to determine its feasibility. Furthermore, what if there are other diseases in the world that affect the health of seafarers? It is wrong to jump to conclusions. Of course, Gretel couldn't deny that the mission rewards were still good. Even if it was just for reward, he had to at least take a look. Very good, Archmage Carlyle smiled with satisfaction. Since you accepted it, someone will come to visit you tomorrow. A fleet from the Parliament has returned and is currently resting in the port. The person coming tomorrow should be their fleet commander, James Delocq, or the chief of logistics. Oh. Have you tidied up your house? Great. So, you allocate a house to me just to support this situation for me? No matter how hurriedly Gretel packed up the house, when the guests came to the door the next day, he still showed appropriate and uncompromising etiquette. A level 7 warrior opens the gate, pulls away the carriage, and takes care of the horses for the guests. There was a cook, borrowed from Aurora's family, who was constantly busy, boiling water, making tea, and baking plates of fragrant biscuits. There are invisible servants who open doors, move chairs, and bring tea and water. Congratulations, this is the first level magic of the conjuration system, and Gretel can finally start to work. The Archmage's personal disciple, the 5th level mage Aurora Wharton, accompanied him to welcome the guests. The two visitors looked at each other and lowered their eyes silently, hiding the surprise in their eyes. Before they came, they had already received news that the young mage sent by the council to solve the problem was from Neuster County. What kind of city was he from? Anyway, it was a small town that they had never heard of. I was selected to come to the headquarters for further training and have been in Nevis for just 1 year. After all, he's just a country boy. Of course, the level of the 4th Reincarnation, coupled with his status as a special commissioner of the Parliament, is enough to be on an equal footing with them. However, for a country boy, the place to entertain them was a villa in the garden area of the city. Although the etiquette is a bit weird, it is by no means shabby. It seems that this year, the Parliament paid more attention to this little mage than they imagined. The smiles of the two guests immediately became more sincere. The leader bowed slightly and stretched out his hand to Gretel. Hello. I am the commander of the Parliament's 3rd Fleet, James Delocq, a 9th level knight. Please don't be offended if I take the liberty of visiting. Hello, I am the logistics chief of the squadron, William Gunson. Next to Delocq, a middle-aged man with a very high hairline and a pointed chin stretched out his hand. Greet stretched out his hand to shake hands with them one by one. Gret Nordmark, 4th level Arcanist, 3rd level mage, nice to meet you. Everyone sat down separately in the living room. The invisible servant brought out the fragrant and warm black tea on a silver tray, and then put down 2 small polished silver pots. One jar contains white sugar cubes, and the other jar contains fresh milk, obviously allowing guests to add their own. Another invisible servant followed and floated out of the kitchen, placing down a plate of light yellow and a plate of brown cookies, 2 types of freshly baked cookies. Each biscuit has a twisted pattern on it, and the aroma fills your nostrils as you bring it over. In the fireplace, the firewood was beeping and burning, and the whole living room was warm and cozy. James Delocq still stood straight, sitting on the sofa like a long sword, full of military style. The logistics chief beside him had already relaxed. He reached out and picked up a brown biscuit, chewed it, and his eyes lit up. Coffee flavor. Greet smiled and nodded. William Gunson praised, the cook in the house is really good at her craftsmanship. The coffee beans are also good, if I'm not mistaken, they are Tala's beans, right? Gretel did not answer directly. He didn't know anything about coffee in his previous life. He only knew about Blue Mountain coffee and cat poop coffee, but he couldn't drink them even if they were put in front of him. After traveling through time, I don't understand it even more. Fortunately, in this world, as long as the magic level of a magician is high, it doesn't matter if he doesn't know anything else. Greet just smiled slightly. Mr. Gunson is the logistics chief of the fleet, so he must be an expert. If you say so, it must be so. It's a pity that our fleet doesn't run that line. Gunson suddenly sighed. Not only do we not run, but the fleets of the Parliament and the Kingdom, and even the merchant ships, don't run to Talas. Otherwise, we can still serve Nordmark. Sir, bring some high-quality goods. This is where we get to the point. Greet put down the teacup and concentrated slightly. Oh? Why? The power of the Church of Radiance is too strong. William Gunson sighed. The Storm Islands and the south of the Storm Islands are all occupied by them. We arrived late and there were few ships, so we could only occupy some places in the north. The south you can either sneak past them on a small boat or buy them at a high price. Greet listened intently and said nothing. Night Drak silently drank half a cup of black tea and then added. There was a good opportunity 2 months ago. We met one of their fleets north of the Storm Islands. It must have been blown over by the hurricane. But at that time, we had also been sailing for 2 months, and the crews were in large numbers. If they are sick and dare not fight, they can only stay away. If we can keep them at sea for 3 months, we can eat them in that one time. Oh, are there any healers on board? Yes. The two guests smiled bitterly at each other. Night Drak explained to Gretel in detail. Healers do exist, but they are very rare. In the Council's fleet, only the flagship will be equipped with a healer, usually a level 3 to 4 Ares priest, and occasionally a level 5. Other ships, like our fleet, except in addition to the flagship, there are 3 ships, large and small, with more than 500 sailors, then it's up to fate. The chaplain can still hold on even when individual crew members get sick, or when a few seriously wounded people are treated after a big battle. But a large number of crew members fell ill, and the chaplain had no solution. For example, the chaplain of our fleet is already a level 7 powerhouse. Even if he tries his best, he can only sustain the fleet for 10 more days. 10 days. Delay an attack of scurvy for 10 days? Gretel immediately cast a look of admiration. A fleet, 4 ships, nearly 1,000 people, 10 days of delay. Man, how did you do that? Then, what diseases are they suffering from? The logistics chief silently took out a large leather-bound notebook. Spread it out, push it in front of Gretel, point at the notebook and explain to him. 11 people died in battle, 3 people lost their footing and fell into the sea, 7 people died from unnamed fever, 5 people died from diarrhea, 8 people died from the plague at sea. Plague at sea? Yes, after sailors have been at sea for a long time, their teeth will bleed, their limbs will become weak, and their muscles will ache, and they will gradually become bedridden. The priest has no good solution. Even if he removes the disease, it can only relieve him for a while. Gretel started to cover his forehead. Scurvy is easy to deal with, but the number of people who die from scurvy is less than half of the total number of deaths. It seems that there is a lot to do to solve the health problems of the crew. Can I see your ship and crew? That afternoon, Gretel boarded the fleet's flagship, the Pelican, as he wished. It's so big. Gretel sighed as he climbed the ladder. It is said that this flagship is only 500 tons. In the previous life, when thousands of tons were counted as small ships, and 10,000 tons were considered fishing boats, 500 tons was really nothing. However, when I climbed on it myself, I realized that it still takes a long time to climb a 500-ton ship. It feels high when you climb up, but when you get on the deck, you immediately feel cramped. Gretel looked around and measured it with his arms. The main deck was less than 2 operating rooms wide. It was much shorter than the corridor of their hospital, and the corridor of the old building was only more than 50 meters long. Gretel looked around and turned to the fleet commander. "Where do the sailors live? I need to see." "Well." Knight Drak held his nose and led him down. After walking only one level, Gretel reflexively raised his hand to cast a spell, covering himself with a bubble spell. "It stinks. It really stinks." He thought for a moment and used the bubble technique again. Correctly understanding the situation is the most important thing at the moment. Just bear with it. Ugh, it smells so bad. To say the stench is overwhelming is an understatement. The air was filled with a strong smell of ammonia. Gretel took a few steps inside before he was overcome with tears and had to exit and cast another bubble. "I can't live this day." From the deck down, the air became increasingly harsh. After just walking up one flight of stairs, Gretel saw no fewer than 10 mice, no fewer than mice, cockroaches, and other bugs. Behind the stairs and in the corners of the cabin, unknown garbage was piled up everywhere. The room where senior sailors lived was so narrow that it could only accommodate a bed, and it was impossible to even turn over. The sailors did not have such a thing as a room at all. Instead, they opened bunks on the lower deck or hung up rope beds. Needless to say, it is normal for infectious diseases to appear in such poor sanitary conditions. Gretel turned his head. Commander Drak, a 9th level knight, followed behind him, with his hand on his sword and a look on his face that said, "Can you please leave quickly?" Greet grabbed the commander, shook his fingers and asked, "Where do they go to the bathroom?" "Go anywhere." Worried about his boss's safety, Bernard said quietly as he followed the cabin. Gretel insisted on going down one level. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he immediately ran away. "The water pump in the bilge is pumping water. That smell can't be stopped even with the bubble technique. Boss, I forgot to tell you that when the weather is bad, most sailors work in the bottom cabin." I went to the kitchen again and took a look. The fresh water in the big bucket had basically been used up. The little water that was left had obviously changed in quality. The bread was not only moldy, but also infested with maggots, and flies were flying everywhere. As for other food, Greet no longer dared to look at it. The sanitary conditions of this fleet need to be improved across the board. All over. Otherwise, people will die one by one. It's the end of the month. Double monthly pass. Everyone hand over your monthly tickets. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please try your best to put it at this time. If you collect 1500 starting coins during this period, you will get 4 monthly tickets. 4 pictures. Thanks to @YuQingshan for the 3000 starting coins. Thanks to @bookfriend2018120510451174 for the reward of 1500 starting coins. Thanks to @Red Sky Without Clouds for the 1000 starting coins reward. Thanks to @Archangel Blazing for the 500 starting coin reward. Thanks to @bookfriend201807222309434331 for the reward of 100 starting coins. You won, you collected another 10,000 rewards, and I will continue to add more today. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, please ask for all kinds of. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 256. Rat Hunt. Kill cockroaches, fleas, bed bugs, mosquitoes and flies. Food preservation. Toilet clean. Gretel gritted his teeth and read while writing, one stroke after another, penetrating the back of the paper. It was so annoying, so annoying. Thinking of the scene on the boat just now, he felt dizzy, nauseous, and wanted to vomit. Fortunately, the endless ink pen he used was magically reinforced, so it was not broken on the spot. Fortunately, he used ordinary white paper, not parchment. If the paper was poked through, it could be blamed on the poor quality of the paper, but not on the fact that he used too much force. Night Drakh looked at him amusedly. As the commander of the squadron, spellcasters take the Pelican to and from the New World every year, and there is even a level 5 magician permanently stationed on the flagship. Many casters had a despairing look on their faces when they first boarded the ship. They were tossed about in the wind and waves for months, and after being vomited until they couldn't get out of bed, holding their noses while crawling into the bottom of the cabin, and hanging on the bow of the ship to use the toilet, they went through all kinds of hardships. After that, the jar was broken. However, it is really rare for him to see people like Gretel who work without hesitation and feel disgusted after finishing the work. And after seeing the cabin and before visiting the crew, you must run home once to change clothes and take a shower. Boss. I'm done. The barbarian came running in, holding a large porcelain vase. There was a lot of orange stuff on the cuffs, skirts, and corners of his mouth. Night Drakh's nose twitched and he smelled a sour smell. Bernard, you will become a minion tomorrow. Gretel stopped writing and said funny. Hey. When it comes to manually squeezing juice or something, without a juicer, Bernard is indeed more reliable. The strong man clenched hard. Pinch it, lemon juice or orange juice, it will pop out. Of course, if you eat a few things secretly, that is just personal labor expenses, not even normal losses. Without waiting for Bernard to protest, Gretel stood up with a smile, left his seat, and rolled up the manuscript. Then let's set off. Commander, is it convenient for you? Let's go. They went straight to the military camp. After the fleet returned, most of the officers and sailors had gone out to enjoy their vacation. There are only a few soldiers whose homes are far away, who have no money in their pockets, or who are still lying in the military camp after being injured, groaning incessantly. Night Drakh took Gretel straight to the wounded barracks. As soon as he entered the camp gate, Greet's eyebrows furrowed. Sewage flows across the river and flies fly around. The sanitary conditions in this barracks are not much better than those on the second deck of the flagship I just saw. Gretel silently opened the door and walked in. As soon as the door opened, a sour smell hit my face. The smell of sour sweat, feet, bad breath, the smell of suppurating and inflamed wounds, and the smell of blood that dries and then deteriorates, all mixed together to form an almost substantial odor attack. Gretel almost took a step back. 10 or 8 diabetic foot patients gathered together to wait for dressing changes, and that was about it. He composed himself and walked slowly into the room. The layout of the wounded barracks was no different from the city guard in Greet's impression. It was a large room with a walkway in the middle and 2 large pavilions on the left and right. Gretel frowned again. How could the wounded soldiers be placed in this way? We don't even know what condition they are in. If they have typhoid fever, dysentery, typhus, etc., wouldn't they have to spread it to a large area? He took a step inside. The hem of the coat was immediately grabbed. Gretel lowered his head and saw a young soldier of 15 or 16 years old, his face flushed and he groaned in a daze. Water, give me water. This one is also infected by the sea plague. Night Drakh sighed on the side. Greet leaned over and immediately smelled a bad breath, which was very clear in the stench that filled the room. He calmed down, took out a cotton swab, and flicked it in the young soldier's nostril. Sure enough, the cotton swab was full of blood. Gretel sighed. He put on his gloves and opened the young soldier's lips. He saw that the gums had begun to recede and the roots of the teeth were filled with blood. bad breath, gum recession, and bleeding, and nasal bleeding. There is no need to continue checking. These symptoms are already very obvious signs of scurvy. Gretel straightened up and took off his gloves. He raised his voice to greet the barbarians. Bernard, give him a drink. Okay, the barbarian came over quickly, poured a small cup from the porcelain bottle, and put it to the young soldier's mouth. The young soldier took a sip in a daze, his whole face wrinkled up, he opened his mouth and spat out. Greet was well prepared and ordered. Drink it? This is. Night Drak asked doubtfully. Gretel immediately explained, there is a medicine that may be effective against the sea plague. I will bring it here for them to try. Such a coincidence. Yesterday he told the parliament about his needs, and today he said there is a medicine that can cure it? Your Excellency, Commander, is doubtful. Gretel didn't explain carefully, and asked Bernard to distribute fruit juice. He walked along the pavement and looked at each one. The second wounded soldier was in his 20s and had a broken arm. The fractured area was obviously poorly healed, and he lay on the bed, feeling dizzy and moaning. The third wounded soldier had gray hair and no obvious trauma. Gretel did a brief check and found that there was no fever or diarrhea. Apart from scurvy, no other symptoms could be found for the time being. The fourth wounded soldier had extensive dermatitis. Fifth, diarrhea. The sixth patient had fever, chills, fleas infested on his body, and a physical examination showed rash and enlarged lymph nodes. Typhus was highly suspected. The seventh. The more Gretel checked, the more headache she got. After checking it all over, he finally couldn't help but pull Night Drak outside and asked in a low voice. Where's the priest? The priest is also on vacation. The commander smiled awkwardly, besides, this year's treatment quota is already full. Gretel was silent. The relationship between the Magic Council and several temples is a cooperative relationship and an employment relationship, rather than a superior-subordinate relationship. The council hired some priests from the temple, and the priests packaged healing within a certain amount of divine magic, so that it was mutually beneficial. If the quota is exceeded and the pastor doesn't want to treat the patient or goes on vacation, no one can do anything about it. But no matter what, these injuries cannot be left like this. Greet pointed to the military camp. They should be bathed, changed into clean clothes and bedding, and lice and fleas should be killed. Those with several contagious diseases should live alone to avoid infecting others. The injured should be properly cared for and fed well to help heal the wounds. Recover. But where are the manpower? The commander asked rhetorically. Gretel was stunned for a moment. What? There are all wounded soldiers here. Those who are not injured are all on leave. The soldiers on duty have their own affairs and have no time to take care of them, the commander replied in one breath. There are clean military uniforms and bedding in the warehouse, but they cannot be changed every day. As for living separately, everyone lives together now. The lightly wounded will also take care of the seriously wounded, at least filling them with a bowl of water and feeding them a mouthful of food. Put them if they are separated and others know that those people can spread diseases, who will take care of them? Greet was silent for a moment. Maybe, this is the meaning of a hospital? Even an experienced nurse knows how to take care of the wounded. You arrange the room. I'll take care of them. He lowered his eyes and whispered. Night Drak was stunned. What? I'm a healer. Now that I've seen it, I can't ignore it. Gretel's voice was extremely low, but it was firm and calm, without hesitation at all. After saying this, he passed Night Drak sideways and walked into the room. He bent down and supported a wounded soldier with multiple suppurations on his body. Come out with me, your injuries need to be cleaned. Bernard. Are you okay? Come and help when you are. Mr. Nordmark. Mr. Nordmark, the commander quickly reached out to stop him. You don't need to do these menial tasks. I'll call the soldiers. Those guys shouldn't be lazy when they take care of their companions. Greet finally finished the work with them. Bernard carried buckets, poured water, and helped the soldiers. Gretel was in a nearby room, debriding the injured soldiers, cutting off the carrion, washing the wounds, and treating minor injuries. Occasionally he raised his head and shouted, "All clothes must be washed. Dirty clothes make it difficult for people to get well. Take a bath. Everyone must wash. All bedding must be removed and washed. All fleas and lice must be removed, otherwise you will get sick. The whole house has to be cleaned. No trash at all. Send the yellow-haired one next door and arrange for someone to take care of him alone. No one else is allowed in. The person taking care of him should wear leather clothes and leather trousers. Don't let fleas crawl on him. The bowls and chopsticks used by the person with diarrhea must be washed separately and boiled in boiling water. Everyone should wash their hands before eating." Gretel was very busy. Seeing him like this, Knight Delik and his logistics chief looked at each other, and rolled up their sleeves to join the working crowd. Busy from morning to evening, all the wounded soldiers finally settled down. Gretel wiped the sweat from his forehead. "I'll come back to see you tomorrow. Thank you for your hard work." The second day, the third day, the fourth day. Under Greet's juice method, the soldiers suffering from sepsis gradually began to improve. Gretel's report was also placed in front of Archmage Carlyle. Keep it clean. Kill rats and pests. Keep food and fresh water properly. Archmage Carlyle glanced over, "Well, these are fleet management issues, we will discuss them with the fleet. Then there is the sea plague, store fresh fruit on the ship. Provide an orange every day, or drink a glass of lemon juice. Is that so?" Archmage Carlyle read the report carefully. Gretel attached a thick stack of medical records to the report, specifically pointing out that the soldiers who had no other symptoms except the sea plague did not receive magical or other medical treatment. At the same time, the situation of other sailors, mainly newly returned merchant sailors, was compared. The person's name, age, symptoms, treatment plan, and daily conditions are all documented. The answer is obvious. A glass of lemon juice or orange juice every day is the cure for the sea plague. Gretel, your solution is good. But, it doesn't work. What? Gretel asked in a voiceless voice. Archmage Carlyle replied slowly. The purpose of letting you take on this mission is not only to treat the sailors, but more importantly, to narrow the gap between the parliamentary fleet and the Church of Radiance. 1 cup of juice a day is a good plan, but it is too simple and too easy to be cracked. If we tell all sailors and merchant ship owners, the Church of Radiance will soon master this method. With their strength, the gap between the council and them will widen a lot. Keep it up. Make a potion that can cure the sea plague, a potion that only the Magic Council can master. Gain enough advantages and enough time for the Parliament. It's the end of the month. Double monthly pass. Everyone hand over your monthly tickets. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please try your best to put it at this time. If you collect 1,500 starting coins during this period, you will get 4 monthly tickets. 4 pictures. Today is another 6,000 words a day. The rewards and extra rewards have been paid off again. I don't know what happened in the past 2 days. There have been very few new readers and very few new subscriptions, depressing. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews. Asking for various. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 257. What? Make vitamin C? Greet was dumbfounded. How difficult is it to determine that scurvy is due to a lack of vitamin C, and to find out? Simply put, this achievement is worth 2 Nobel Prizes. In 1937, Hungarian biochemist Szent-Györgyi won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for his research on vitamin C and oxidation reactions in the human body. In the same year, British scientist Haworth won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for determining the chemical structure of vitamin C and artificially producing vitamin C. Archmage Carlyle, you think so highly of me if I had the ability to make vitamin C with my bare hands, I wouldn't have been struggling for more than 10 years in my previous life, and I would just be a deputy chief physician. My highest degree is a master's degree. My major is clinical medicine, not pharmacy. By the way, what is the path for industrial production of vitamin C? I have not forgotten this, I have never learned this at all. Gretel descended to Igor Peak in depression. The thought of having to climb over 2 Nobel Prizes to complete the task made him feel so weak that he didn't even want to enter the laboratory. By the way, he has to make a magic potion to solve a problem that can be solved with a lemon every day. Is this really okay? It's so annoying. Why don't you write a paper on the conclusion of lemon juice treatment and send it to the alchemy workshop and let them think of ways to make it into a medicine? Greed was unhappy, so he cast a spell to summon a mount, and sat on the horse and walked. The horse summoned by magic is smarter and more intelligent than the horse that exists in nature. Even if the owner does not control it, it will not be frightened and run around or step on people. Gretel was riding his horse in a daze, and the horse moved around randomly. Unknowingly, a fishy smell hit his face. Greet came back to his senses, looked up, and realized that he had reached the port area. Come on, let's go to the treatment center. With this thought, Gretel turned his horse's head in a circle, click, 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 and soon arrived at the treatment center of the Order of the God of Nature. Brother Matthew. Hey, little Gretel, why are you here free? Pastor Matthew turned his head from the alchemy table and greeted happily. Gretel was a little embarrassed. During this period, he really didn't go to the treatment center much. He was either busy with electrolysis or bacterial culture every day. After the plague was discovered, people from the religious sect were brought in to help for a while, including treating patients, cultivating, staining, and microscopic examinations. It seems that the council hasn't calculated the treatment costs for them yet. I'm really sorry. Brother Matthew, I'm sorry, I was too busy a while ago. He walked up to the alchemy table and said, Brother Matthew, what are you doing? I'm making colchicum tablets. Don't tell me, the colchicine you made is really effective. Those guys with gout last time were cured after just a few days of taking the medicine. Oh, they are quite proud of themselves. They have been honest for 2 months. Just eat and drink like crazy, then come here to buy medicine, and then start tossing around again in 2 months. Colchicine tablets. Gretel's eyes lit up. He seemed to grasp an idea, but also seemed not to grasp it. However, now is not the time to be distracted. Gretel rolled up his sleeves and stepped forward to help. Brother Matthew, let me help you do it together. Weigh, add alcohol, shake, filter and let stand. The alcohol was evaporated to obtain a crude extract of colchicine. The content has been measured last time, so there is no need to do it this time. In short, 20 grams of colchicum powder is used to make 12 tablets. Gretel was quick and smooth in doing the work. While doing it, she also reminded Pastor Matthew. Brother Matthew, remember to tell the patient that you can only take 1 to 2 tablets of this medicine every hour, and no more than 12 tablets per day, that is, 24 hours. If you take too much, you will be poisoned. It's true, colchicum is poisonous. I know. You told me that last time too, Pastor Matthew laughed. Really, you can cut a little colchicum powder and need some starch to use it, but you insist on doing a lot of it like this. Gretel was stunned on the spot. Yes, that's right. You can just eat medicinal plants directly, or the powder or juice of medicinal plants. Why do you need to make extracts? Why industrial production? Why should it be synthesized chemically? Why do countless researchers in the fields of chemistry, chemical engineering, and biomedicine have to take this path despite all the difficulties and dangers they face and cause all kinds of trouble for themselves? Not just for monopoly, not just for technical barriers. More importantly, the medication is safe. For example, the dosage of colchicine is 0.5 to 1 mg every 1 to 2 hours for adults, and no more than 6 mg per day. If the dosage is too small, it will be useless. If the dosage is too large, it will be toxic. So, how to ensure the accuracy of dosage? Control where colchicum comes from. This year's weather, sunshine, precipitation, fertilizer, will the colchicum grow well? Just the bulb, no leaves, or just certain parts of the bulb? This kind of control method may be accurate to 0.1 grams or 0.01 grams. However, if you want to be accurate to milligrams or even micrograms, and if you want to make the dosage of each medication stable and uniform, you can't do it. What about medicines with smaller single doses? For example, when fentanyl is used for anesthesia induction, the dosage is 0.05-0.1 mg. Not to mention, the extracts of medicinal plants contain too many impurities. The simplest example is salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. Everyone knows that you can get it by boiling willow bark in water. But, how many ingredients are in willow bark tea? Amino acids, sugars, organic acids, glycosides, phenols. Dozens of species are rare. If you want to extract salicylic acid from it and eliminate the ineffective and harmful ingredients, I will cry to death. This is why modern anesthesia medicine only came about after the emergence of modern chemistry. If it were ancient times, henbane, datura, belladonna and other herbs were mixed and extracted and then fed to patients, which was a complete gamble on their lives. If the raw material ingredients fluctuate slightly, the anesthesia will be excessive and the patient will not wake up. Only by relying on chemistry, only by chemical extraction and refining, can the content of drugs be determined. Only by chemical synthesis can drugs with high purity, uniform and stable properties be made, and become a reliable helper for doctors. These principles have all been learned before. Brother Matthew, Greed thanked him sincerely. Before Pastor Matthew could ask, Greed rushed out of the treatment center like a whirlwind and summoned his mount again. He rode around the street twice and stopped in front of a fruit stall. What's the price of these oranges? Where are the lemons? I want them all, please help me deliver them. A cart of citrus, a basket of lemons, a cart of cabbage, and 7 or 8 other vegetables were dragged into Greed's villa one after another. The cook wiped her hands on her apron in surprise. Mr. Nodmark, are you going to have a banquet? It's the last day of the month. Double monthly pass. Everyone hand over your monthly tickets. Remember to leave your guaranteed monthly pass for next month to me too. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please try your best to put it at this time. If you collect 1,500 starting coins during this period, you will get 4 monthly tickets. 4 pictures. Thanks to @Explosion Maniac for the reward of 1,500 starting coins. Thanks to @Kingping's Highway for the 500 starting coins. Today I can finally update only 4,000 words, happy. Please give me monthly votes, recommend votes, book reviews, and ask for all kinds of things. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 258. Gretel regretted it within half an hour. Why did he buy so many? How much water has gone into his brain to buy a whole cart of oranges? Obviously buying 10 or 8 pounds is enough for him to make. If not, it's not like he won't be able to sell it on the market. In addition to oranges, he also bought lemons, cabbage, cauliflower, cabbage, celery, peas, radishes. Aunt Susan. Aunt Susan, Gretel had to go and apologize to the cook. Can you do me a favor? Peel what needs to be peeled, slice what needs to be sliced, and deist what needs to be done. Just treat it to the way it looks before you prepare to cook. No need to do more, just a few things. Add it all up and handle just 1 pound. Okay, Master Gretel, the cook agreed without saying a word. Soon, the sound of the chopping board was heard in the kitchen, and the cook's aunt sighed. Young man. Greet shrugged. It must be admitted that the cook did these tasks much more efficiently than them. In the blink of an eye, a plate of fruit and vegetable slices was brought out. Greet smiled at the cook and shouted, Aurora! Come here and help me. Aurora rushed over. According to Gretel's request, he diligently threw ice spells on the lemons, cabbage, and cauliflower to quickly freeze them. Until all the fruits and vegetables were frozen solid, he then directed Aurora to put the fruits and vegetables into a thick-walled iron bottle and desperately suck out the air. As the air pressure decreases, the moisture in the fruit and vegetable slices begins to sublimate rapidly. Those fruits and vegetables still retain their fresh and bright colors, but they have become dry and brittle, and they break when touched. Okay. Aurora, thank you. Give this to the cook to grind it into powder, mix it thoroughly, and get a bottle to put it in. Freeze-dried comprehensive fruit and vegetable slices. Grind it. 7 or 8 kinds of fruits and vegetables are fully mixed. Greet tried throwing an identification spell, but the information displayed was too confusing and there was no feedback. Aurora also lost one, but still failed to get a result. Not bad, not bad. I'll take it to Babel Tower tomorrow and ask a master appraiser to identify it. Anti-scurvy potion, primary version, completed. If even the appraisal master can't recognize it, then it's time to hand it over to the task. With the guarantee in hand, Greet made up his mind and began to fight with vitamin tablets. There is no need to think about chemical synthesis. Extracting vitamins from natural products is still possible. Dong, dong, dong. Bernard was like a big rabbit, holding a stone pestle as high as half a man and pounding it down hard. The huge stone pestle was as light as nothing in his hand. A stream of juice shot out from under the stone pestle, swirled, and then sank to the bottom of the stone mortar. After a while, Bernard leaned the stone pestle on the edge, picked up the stone mortar, and tipped it out. Amid the sound of gurgling water, a pot was filled with freshly squeezed orange juice. Extract. Twisted hard with gauze, filter, filter, filter again. Get a clear or at least, clear-looking liquid. The barbarian's mission is over. Next, is Gretel's own battle. Boss, okay. Is there anything else you can help with? The barbarian shook his hands stained with orange juice and grinned. Gretel waved to him, no more. Thank you for your hard work. By the way, eat less oranges these days, your hands are all yellow. Then, how to make solid vitamin C. Greet glanced at the manuscript paper on the side. Before the hands-on experiment, he wrote down several technical routes in advance: evaporation method, cooling method, vacuum cooling method, salting out method, and reaction crystallization method. Next, let's try them one by one. Take 100 ml, heat, and evaporate the water. Take the dried residue of orange juice, redissolve it, and use starch indicator and iodine solution, thanks to the fact that he made iodine when he was messing with bacterial stains before, to measure the vitamin C content. It's a pity that the remainder after heating, the vitamin C content. It was too tragic to watch. Greet scratched his head and suddenly remembered that vitamin C would quickly oxidize and lose its effectiveness when heated. Okay, eliminate it by evaporation. Cooling method. Obviously, The concentration of vitamin C in orange juice is insufficient, and it does not become solid until it is frozen into a popsicle. Vacuum cooling method. Same result as above. Salting out method. I added a bunch of sodium chloride and kept adding it until the liquid was saturated. What finally separated out was table salt. Fail. Reaction crystallization method. The fundamental of the reaction crystallization method is to add reactants to the solution to produce new substances. When the solubility of the new substance exceeds the saturated solubility, crystals will precipitate. So, what do vitamins react with to produce insoluble substances? Calcium, potassium, sodium. Gretel jumped up suddenly. Yes, that's it, sodium ascorbate. It also has the effect of treating scurvy, but sodium ascorbate is a more stable compound than vitamin C. It is also a common drug in clinical practice. He should have remembered it long ago. Gretel held his breath, diluted 1 milliliter of sodium hydroxide solution, and added it drop by drop to the citrus juice. Stir the glass rod in your left hand continuously, drop 1 drop, stir twice, and use litmus paper to test the pH. Drip again, stir again. When the pink color of the litmus paper was almost invisible, Greet finally stopped. Filter again, heat, evaporate and crystallize. Then, dissolve the crystals again and test. Fail. Not made. Greet kept up his efforts. Anyway, the barbarian has squeezed enough orange juice, so he can toss it slowly. If sodium hydroxide doesn't work, use baking soda. Baking soda doesn't work either, just replace it with sodium carbonate. Time passed by minute. Weighing, dissolving, titrating, heating, crystallizing. Redes solve, react, measure. Record the mass of the reactants, record the reaction temperature, record the reaction time. Failed once, failed again, failed again. From noon to evening, from evening to late night. The experiment notebook was turned over 1 page after another, and 1 cup after another of the large pot of orange juice was consumed. Aurora was always by his side, helping with weighing, heating, recording, and doing this and that. However, as Greet announced his failure, he gradually fell silent and no longer had the intention of joking. Gretel's face remained calm. What does this mean? What does this failure mean? Basic research is always a lonely and difficult road. To prepare the same product, raw materials, concentration, temperature, reaction time, catalyst, endless ratios need to be tried. There are tens of thousands of possibilities, and sometimes the difference is just 0.1 degrees Celsius, and it may not work out. Even if he is only doing the simplest experiments, taking a path that has been paved by his predecessors, and not falling over 180 times, is that still called research? This time, the crystallization solution fell drop by drop, and the blue solution produced by the reaction of iodine and starch faded visibly to the naked eye. Yeah. Greet raised his hands and waved vigorously. Success. Sodium ascorbate, even sodium ascorbate with a lot of impurities, he made it. It's the last day of the month. Double monthly pass. Everyone hand over your monthly tickets. Remember to leave your guaranteed monthly pass for next month to me too. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please try your best to put it at this time. If you collect 1500 starting coins during this period, you will get 4 monthly tickets. 4 pictures. My grades have been so bad these days. It doesn't matter, I have readjusted the details at the end and am ready to start the big plot. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, please ask for all kinds of. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 259. Have you heard? The Parliament has made a secret remedy to combat the sea plague. Yes, I heard that too. News spreads fastest among businessmen. Less than 10 days after Gretel succeeded in making sodium ascorbate, the news spread among the sea merchants in Neva City. Yes, there is a clerk in my shop, his second brother's brother-in-law, who is in the Northern Squadron. I heard that when I came back this time, all the patients in the fleet who contracted the sea plague took this medicine, and soon they were cured. All right. I heard that the Northern Fleet is going to sea for training soon. They are planning to float offshore for a few months and test this new drug. Tell me, can we get this medicine? I went to the White Tower yesterday and asked, but there was no exchange area. Maybe it's still being tested? I'll ask someone to ask. Gretel didn't want to deal with these things at all. After making sodium ascorbate, he calculated the yield and found that with his production process, only 10 milligrams of vitamin C could be extracted from 100 grams of oranges. Assuming that a normal person consumes 100 milligrams of vitamin C every day and a fleet of 1,000 people floats at sea for 60 days, he would need to make sodium ascorbate for use by a fleet. Throw away 60 tons of oranges. Fall. Such a large production volume should be left to industrial production, and he should not be allowed to make it by hand alone. So, Greed finished writing the paper and quickly threw it into the hands of Archmage Carlyle. Archmage Carlyle looked at the paper and the key points mentioned in it that needed to be tested. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. There must be a more efficient way to extract drugs to treat scurvy. It is recommended that the Alchemy Workshop establish a team and conduct multiple experiments. In view of the fact that this drug is easy to remain stable in acid but will quickly change its properties in alkali, it is recommended to chop the food into pieces and use dilute hydrochloric acid, dilute sulfuric acid, and dilute nitric acid to extract it in turn. Two different vegetables and fruits have different contents of active ingredients. It is recommended that the team find more fruits and vegetables for measurement, rather than just using oranges and lemons. Attached, the method of calculating content by titration method. 3. When this drug reacts with baking soda and soda ash, different ratios need to be tested for purity and concentration. At the back of the paper, there is also a thick stack of experimental records, which is half a foot long. That attitude is obviously "I've made it, please come up with more details, I won't play anymore." It's really Gretel's consistent style. It was the same when the mithril was smelted last time, and it was the same after the last phlogiston experiment. Throw out a plan, let it go, and let others test and improve it. There is nothing wrong with doing research like this, but it is too big of a brand. Generally speaking, magicians below level 5 will practice with their mentors. After reaching level 5, they will independently study some valuable issues. As for leading a team, they must reach at least level 7, 8, or even 9. Above. Of course, those out-of-town mage towers that a 5th level mage can preside over are not among them. But little Gretel is only level 3. Okay, you have completed this task for the time being. Archmage Carlyle sighed and patted the paper. However, we have to wait until enough medicine is made and the fleet has tested it to be effective before we can reward you. Next, have you decided what to study? Are there any resources that Thunderhorn can provide? Gretel hesitated. Penicillin is still being searched for, and so far, no results have been obtained. The drawings of the P4 laboratory are already available, but the plan of the Mage Tower, protection system, and change system are still entangled and have not been finalized for the time being. In terms of public health, the relevant departments of the Parliament are wrangling, mainly because a new expenditure has suddenly appeared. The amount of the budget has not yet been determined, and it will not be his turn for a while. This, I have a magic that I don't quite understand. Can I ask you for advice? What magic? Second level magic of the charm control school, delaying pain. Oh, this magic. Archmage Carlyle immediately relaxed. This magic is not difficult, I am familiar with it. Delay pain. This magic can make the subject feel no pain for a period of time. It is one of the necessary spells for magicians to go on adventures and travel at home. When he advanced to the third level mage, he learned it very quickly and has become very familiar with it over the years. By the way, this magic also has a corresponding divine version, which has always been a weapon used by priests to comfort patients. Whether it hurts or not, I will give you a slow pain shot, and the disease will be cured within 3 hours. Can't you learn this magic? Where is it stuck? Use it again and show me. Did you recite the incantation correctly? The casting gesture is not standard. The spell model cannot be parsed. Archmage Carlyle guessed. Gretel lowered his head and chanted a few words, pointed his hand, and a spell wave was sent forward. Archmage Carlyle raised his hand to meet him and pinched himself. Sure enough, he could hardly feel the pain. Considering the natural spell resistance of high-level mage, it is quite good to be able to achieve this. Didn't you use it well? What's the problem? What is the working principle of this magic? Gretel quickly asked a lot of questions. Which part of the human body does it act on? Can the range be adjusted, such as controlling only a certain part of the limb? Can the muscles be relaxed at the same time? And stop. I'll take you to find someone from the charm control department. Greet smiled slightly. He has long wanted to study this magic. Delaying pain allows patients to not feel pain for a certain period of time. In Greet's view, it is simply an anesthesia artifact. Local anesthesia, spinal anesthesia, and general anesthesia will not cause central nervous system depression during anesthesia, nor will the patient's heart rate drop or lose spontaneous breathing. This is much better than clinical anesthetics. But the problem is that when he used delay pain to perform surgery on the rabbit struggled when it should struggle and ran away when it should. When setting the bones of a lamb's leg, the sheep's muscles should be taut, and should not be broken, but they still can't be broken. Elderwood's answer to this was increase your control, but Gretel always felt that there should be another way, a better way. The relationship between the control system and the evocation system is not good. The latter feels that the former is too flashy and insidious, the former feels that the latter is too violent and only knows how to fight and kill. Fortunately, Archmage Carlyle had been in Thunderhorn for many years and had some connections. He led him around and quickly found a level 13 magic control mage. MRS seat, this is the child. Archmage Carlyle pulled Gretel through the door. In the reception room, a charming young woman who looked to be in her 20s or 80s raised her head and smiled slightly. Little Gretel? I've heard of you. Well, since you have any doubts, just study with me for a while and follow along to study. Double period. Guaranteed monthly pass. Hand it over. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please try your best to put it at this time. If you collect 1,500 starting coins during this period, you will get 4 monthly tickets. 4 pictures. Thanks to @RedSnowdens for the 200 starting coins. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, please ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 260. Archmage Carlyle's connections are quite powerful, and even if he is transferred from person to person, his favors are solid enough. MRS Seat's teaching to Gretel was completely dedicated, just like how she taught her own disciples. As a 13th level great magician, he naturally has a very deep understanding of the second level magic of this school. In the hands of the Archmage Carlyle, the magic that only knew what it was but didn't know its reason was quickly dismantled piece by piece in the hands of Mrs. Seed. This trumpet-like structure adjusts the intensity of spell casting. There are always some people who are particularly sensitive to pain, or the effects of some painful spells are particularly strong and need to be offset. Try to change this structure? What? Go back and calculate it. Of course, it is always right for young people to be cautious. This hyperbola? You took it apart wrong. The left half is connected to the rhombus structure further to the left. The right half can be taken apart separately. This cone? No, what you see on the scroll is its projection, and its spell configuration in the meditation environment should be. Second-level magic is much more complicated than first-level magic. With Gretel's ability, he could barely draw the spell model according to the description in the magic scroll or the magic book, and release the spell. However, piece by piece like this, dismantling, adjusting, changing. Greet tried 3 times. The 2 times had no effect. The third time, the spell model in the meditation environment directly shattered, almost shaking the core of meditation. Gretel did not dare to continue seeking death, so he turned to Archmage Carlyle for help. Only then did he realize that the analysis and changes to standard spell models were the secrets of every school, every mage organization, and even every magician. As for the details of delaying pain, Archmage Carlyle himself is not very clear about it. Only the masters of the charm control school can ask for advice. Mrs. Seed broke the entire spell model into pieces and explained it clearly. Where is the effect, where can be adjusted, and where can never be changed. I even quoted from other sources to find out which spell structure is the same as hypnosis, and which spell structure has similarities with blindness and deafness of the necromancy system. This class lasted from afternoon to after dinner. At about 4 o'clock, Mrs. Seed's female disciples came in to serve afternoon tea, desserts, and fruits. They came in and out, changing people constantly. Every person who came in would look at Greet. Greet was immersed in dismantling the spell and didn't even look at them, but Mrs. Seed kept laughing. When I poured milk into the teacup, my palms kept shaking, and the milk almost spilled on the apple pie. The more Gretel learned, the more grateful he became for the Archmage's selfless teaching. When she finished speaking, she couldn't help but bow deeply. Thank you so much, Mrs. Seed. I really don't know how to repay you for your teaching. Then how about joining the charm control school? Mrs. Seed quickly opened the feather fan and closed it halfway. She covered her lips with the edge of her fluffy feather fan and smiled softly. Young man, our school of seduction and control has many beautiful girls. As he spoke, he lowered his head slightly and adjusted his skirt casually, naturally. Gretel sweated. You are joking. What's so attractive about beautiful girls? You have to give me 10 or 8 strictly trained nurses, and I will immediately, I will take them all back to the hospital immediately. Okay, I won't tease you anymore, Mrs. Seed said seriously. Your qualifications are even better than what Carlyle said. It is indeed very pleasant to teach students like you. Well, regarding delaying pain, I have taught you everything I can. The rest needs to be practiced slowly by yourself. Is there anything else you want to ask? While I'm in a good mood today, I can tell you all. This was just a polite word. If Gretel had still had the same character in his previous life, he would have stood up immediately to say thank you and say goodbye. However, he had traveled through time and became much thicker-skinned. He seized the opportunity and asked immediately. How do you know that the target of the technique can't feel pain? Or is it dizzy, charming, or hypnotized by me? Is there any observation method in the charm control school or other schools? This. The last bit of smile on Mrs. Seed's lips also faded away. She brushed her hair subconsciously, a golden bell jingled on her wrist, and said in deep thought. There really is no school of magic control. Generally speaking, mages who follow the school of magic control are quite confident in their charm, and they know whether their spells are successful or not. Of course, it's not like they haven't been counterattacked by someone pretending to be tricked. Well, let me think about it. Her bright red Kodan lightly tapped the table, her beautiful eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and her eyes were moving. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly closed his feather fan and tapped his palm. Yes. You can try several spells from the prophecy system: detect thoughts, positioning, see-through invisibility, identify camouflage, and even the most basic magic detection and poison detection. The spells from the prophecy system can let the mage see things that ordinary people can't see. Can you see brain waves? Can you see nerve action potentials? Can I see an electromyogram? Gretel's heart was pounding. He thanked MRSC respectfully and caught the last train down the mountain. As soon as he returned to the villa, he rushed in like a whirlwind. Bernard. Bernard, are there any frogs? Please help me catch some frogs. Where can there be frogs in such a cold weather? The barbarian had eaten his fill of meat and was lying in front of the fireplace in the living room to warm himself, spreading his hands and feet and not wanting to move. Greet clasped his hands together and shook him up and down. Please. I want to do an experiment and I need frogs. Without frogs, I have to kill a lot of big animals. It's very annoying. Please help me. The savage got up with a grunt and went into the garden. After a while, 5 frogs bigger than his fist came in. Greet took one gratefully, nailed the frog to the board with 3 strokes, 5 divided by 2, turned on detection magic, and drew a line on the frog's leg. Well, nothing changes. Detect toxicity? Draw another line, still no change. Detect thoughts? Another cut with the knife made Gretel's heart beat loudly. He did feel it, a very vague, very weak, but real signal. Gretel quickly threw delay pain in the past, and then continued to feel the magic feedback. It seems like nothing has changed. Could it be that the frog's intelligence is too low to detect thoughts? Greet smashed the frog's medulla oblongata and made another cut. Then, he sadly discovered that the feedback from detecting thoughts still didn't change much. Change another one? Gretel thought for a moment, then caught a new frog and activated the 2nd level prophecy spell see-through invisibility. This time, the frog's head, torso, and limbs were beating with translucent light of life. With one slash of the knife, the aura of the frog's head and the leg of the frog that received the knife fluctuated slightly. What's this? What is the aura of life I see in my meditation vision? Intuition came up faster than reason. Gretel's heart was pounding and he almost screamed. He even luxuriously took out the spiritual potion and took a small sip. Then he stared closely at the frog's head, raised his hand, and cast a spell. Delay the pain. The head, frog legs, and spiritual light in the meditation field of vision are still flickering gently, but they are no longer fluctuating so violently. Greet took a deep breath. He was very close to the truth. Double period. Guaranteed monthly pass. Hand it over. And from today to August 4th, there will be a crowdfunding monthly ticket activity from 2000 hours to 2400 hours in the evening. If you want to reward, please try your best to put it at this time. If you collect 1500 starting coins during this period, you will get 4 monthly tickets. 4 pictures. Today, my collection is still empty. I feel so miserable. Woo woo.